When we talk about ancient civilizations, many questions arise from our minds regarding their knowledge level. For example, how much was the Tower of Babel built? The ancient Babylonians were well known for their black magic practices. They were sent by God himself to teach humans how to cast spells and other forms of black magic. It is believed that they lived during the time of the ancient Babylonians and were responsible for teaching them the ways of sorcery. The Babylonians were eager to learn and soon became very powerful sorcerers themselves. They used their newfound powers for all sorts of purposes, from protecting themselves from harm to gaining wealth and power. However, some of the sorcerers were able to retain some of their powers, and so the practice of black magic continued. It is also said that the angels of Harut and Marut continued to watch over humanity from afar, waiting for the day when they would be called upon once again to teach the world the ways of sorcery. They were then sent to Earth, where they corrupted the human race by teaching them sorcery and other forms of dark magic. They are part of the demiurgic realm, which is the material world created by an imperfect God. The Gnostics believed that this world was full of suffering, and that the only way to escape it was to attain knowledge, which is a special kind of knowledge that can free the soul from the material world. Harut and Marut were said to be messengers of this secret knowledge, and their teachings were highly sought after by the Gnostics. During his reign, Babylon became the largest city in the world and a center of trade and culture. It was also during this time that the Babylonians developed their famous Hanging Gardens, which was said to have been one of the ancient world's 7 wonders. The empire eventually fell to the Persians in 539 BC and the city was sacked. The Babylonians were known for their advanced knowledge of mathematics, science, and astrology. They developed a sexagesimal number system based on 60, which is still used today for measuring time and angles. They also made significant contributions to astronomy and developed a system of constellations that is still used today. The Book of Enoch, an ancient text not included in the Bible, provides more details on their story. They believed that the stars and planets had a profound influence on human affairs, and that by understanding their movements, they could gain insight into the future. They also believed that there were spirits and demons that inhabited the natural world, and that these beings could be summoned and controlled by those who knew the proper rituals and to harness these forces, the Babylonians turned to astrology, alchemy, and other forms of divination. They studied the movements of the stars and planets to try to understand their influence on human affairs. They also experimented with alchemy, which is the study of the properties of metals and other substances, in order to find ways to transmute base metals into gold. Additionally, they practiced various forms of divination, such as interpreting the entrails of sacrificed animals, or by casting lots, or by reading the patterns of sand that appeared on the ground. It says that Harut and Marut were among the 200 fallen angels who rebelled against God. They sought to harness these forces through astrology, alchemy, and other forms of divination in order to gain power and knowledge. While their beliefs may seem strange to us today, they were an important part of the ancient Babylonian culture and way of life. They were led by Semiezer, who was later castrated by an angel named Ra. After their fall, Harut and Marut taught humans forbidden knowledge and led them away from the true path. They also taught them how to make weapons, how to cause disease, and how to practice divination. As punishment, they were bound in chains and thrown into a deep abyss. However, they also began to use it for evil, which violated the agreement they had made with the angels. Harut and Marut were said to be powerful angels who had fallen from grace and become demons. They have inspired many works of art, literature, and music. They were known for their advanced knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and astrology. They developed a sophisticated system of writing and kept detailed records of their observations of the natural world. They also built impressive structures such as the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the ancient world's 7 wonders. The Babylonians were polytheistic, and their religion was a mix of beliefs and practices from the people they conquered. They believed that the gods were all-knowing and all-powerful, and they tried to please them through sacrifices and prayers. They also believed in an afterlife, and they thought that the journey of the soul was similar to that of the sun. As the sun rose and set each day, so too did the soul journey from the land of the living to the land of the dead and back again. This belief led them to develop a fascination with astrology and the cycles of the heavens. They believed that the positions of the stars and planets at the time of a person's death could predict the fate of their soul. In modern times, they are often depicted as demons or evil spirits who possess humans and cause them to act in strange and unpredictable ways. However, their true origins lie in ancient Mesopotamian mythology and their role as teachers of magic and sorcery. They confronted the Babylonians and demanded that they stop using their powers immediately. But the Babylonians refused, and so the angels had no choice but to take drastic measures. Jinn are elemental beings made of fire that inhabit the earth and can interact with humans. Like angels, they have the ability to appear in different forms and can be both good or evil depending on their nature. In Islamic texts, Harut and Marut are mentioned as to jinn, who were sent by Allah to teach the people of Babylon the art of magic. However, they quickly turned against their human students and used their magic for evil purposes. As punishment, they were imprisoned in jars beneath the sea until the day of judgment, when they will be released and their magic will be used for good. They stripped the Babylonians of their powers and then vanished from sight forever. This event is said to have taken place around 3,000 years ago in ancient Babylon. They were banished from heaven for their arrogance and pride, but were allowed to roam the earth where they could do as they pleased. However, they were forbidden from using their powers for evil, which made them extremely dangerous. Their knowledge in this field was so great that it has become a thing of legend. However, they also had a dark side, which they kept hidden from most people. When they were approached by the ancient Babylonians and asked to teach them the ways of sorcery, the angels agreed, but only on one condition: that they would not use their powers for evil. The Babylonians agreed to these terms, and so Harut and Marut began their teachings. But who taught them? Where did all this knowledge come from? Who were the first people to use it? How did they use it? And finally, what happened to those who tried to get rid of it? All of these questions will be answered today, so stay with us until the end of the video. Or, what kind of engineering works did they do? And why did they suddenly stop building amazing structures? Well, we have the answer to another question that might even be more interesting than these. What kind of magic did the ancient Babylonians practice? Welcome to my channel. And today we will learn about Harut and Marut angels, who taught black magic. It is said that there are two angels whose names are Harut and Marut. The angels were said to have been very knowledgeable in the ways of magic and were able to perform all sorts of feats, from healing the sick to raising the dead. It is said that the angels taught the Babylonians everything they knew about black magic, including how to control the elements, how to read and cast spells, and how to summon demons. When Harut and Marut realized that the Babylonians were using their powers for evil, they were furious. It is said that after the angels left, the Babylonians were left without any knowledge of black magic. According to Islamic tradition, Harut and Marut were actually jinn, not angels. In Jewish and Christian texts, Harut and Marut are described as fallen angels who rebelled against God and were cast out of heaven. In Gnosticism, Harut and Marut are seen as divine emanations who bring hidden knowledge to humans. The stories of Harut and Marut have been popular in many cultures throughout history. The ancient Babylonians were a civilization that lived in Mesopotamia, in the area that is now modern-day Iraq, Kuwait, and Turkey. The Babylonian Empire reached its peak during the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar II in the 6th century BC. The ancient Babylonians believed that the universe was full of magical powers, and that these powers could be harnessed by those who knew how to unlock them. Overall, the ancient Babylonians believed that the universe was a magical place filled with spirits, demons, and other mysterious forces. Thank you for watching. See you next time.